Hi, sci-fi fans. This is Tracy Coco, Lieutenant J from TNG, and you're listening to the SciFi Diner Podcast.
Welcome to the SciFi Diner Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Herzog.
Good evening. I'm Miles P. McLaughlin.
I'm Chrissy Ravensburger.
And Dave is unavailable. Chrissy, what were you saying about Dave?
Dave is sir not appearing in this episode.
Nope. He merely had a heart attack. Just kidding.
Careful, Scott. That's how rumors get started.
That's how rumors get started. Instead, we now have the Moose making an appearance tonight as a stand-in. All right. Well, tonight, if you didn't pick it up, we are doing Monty Python's The Search for the Holy Grail. We talked about this in the last episode, and we said this movie, when you run into geeks, it's hard to find a geek that hasn't watched this movie, at least in one part. And so this kind of is a staple of geekdom. And the irony of this movie, Monty Python's Search for the Holy Grail, is it's had a resurgence at numerous points. Of sharing the story. In 2012, I was teaching, and one of my classes, they began to quote. They would quote this movie, and this movie came out in '75, right? So there's been a longevity, and then a musical came on that kind of helped with the resurgence again, with the silliness of it all. And so all these things have kind of helped bring it into the forefront of our society again.
Brief synopsis. History is turned on its comic head when in 10th century England, King Arthur travels the countryside to find knights who will join him at the Round Table in Camelot. Gathering up the men is a tale in itself, but every bit of a party at Camelot, many decide to leave, only to be stopped by God, who sends them on a quest to find the Holy Grail. After a series of individual events, the knights are reunited but must face a wizard named Tim the Enchanter, killer rabbits, and lessons in the use of holy hand grenades. Their quest comes to an end, however, when the police intervene, just what you'd expect in a Monty Python movie. Even the budget is noteworthy because Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd helped fund this movie. So it was budgeted for $400,000 back in 1975. I'm not sure what that would be in today's dollars. I'm guessing maybe a couple million, give or take. It didn't make a lot of money back in '75. But like Scott said, it's had a few resurgences over the years, especially with the advent of VHS, DVDs, and also the Spamalot musical, which I'm happy to say I got a chance to see about 10, 15 years ago.
I'm a little jealous. I've only ever listened to the soundtrack of the musical, but I know most of the songs. I won't sing them tonight, but yeah, $400,000 in 1975 is about equivalent to 2.4 million today. So
yeah, that's what I'm finding too.
So not a gigantic budget, but also not tiny.
How did you all first encounter Monty Python's Search for Holy Grail? Miles, let's start with you.
My friend Dave, who is a comedy aficionado, in another life he would have been a stand-up comedian, but he just said I've watched a few Monty Python skits on TV. They're known more for their sketch comedy. Well, I want to say no more, but they got started out. That's where they made it big. Was TV sketch comedy, and then they parlayed that success into making movies. And I just watched them with one night. And I said, "This is the wackiest, most brilliant thing I've ever saw. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's brilliant." When we talk about the substance of the movie, as far as so it's there to entertain, make you laugh, but there's also a lot of subtext and subversive stuff. I mean, that's what comedy is not just making you laugh, but it's also trying to make you think. And it's a platform for the comedian or comedians to maybe make a statement somehow.
Chrissy, how about you?
Oh goodness, I grew up with my dad and my parents' friends referencing this movie, and Monty Python in general, and even seeing I think a couple sketches here and there of Monty Python, like pretty much my entire life. So I want to say I first actually got to watch the film when I was in middle school because my mom basically made my dad wait until I was old enough because she did not like the Sir Galahad Grail scene. She didn't think that it was appropriate for people until I was old enough for that, which makes sense. Like that's not necessarily the most appropriate scene to be showing a child until they're older. So it wasn't until I was in middle school when my dad sat my brother, sister, and I down and we're like, okay, now we're gonna watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. My brother and I loved it. We thought it was the most hysterical thing ever. My sister, bless her, she didn't get it. Like to this day, she's like, I don't understand what any of this is. It makes no sense to her, which is interesting. She's one of the few people that like I've ever met that don't get the humor, but she also doesn't have the same sense of humor that I do necessarily. But I find all of Monty Python to just be freaking hysterical. So I love all of the movies, all of the sketches, obviously the musical.
Yeah, for me, I encountered this in the late 80s on VHS. So I would have been 5 when it came out in theaters. And growing up in a pretty conservative household, we didn't watch it. But ironically, it might have been around 1988. And some friends I ran around with that were part of our youth group. One guy's house, we would go to his basement, and we would watch VHS movies. And in fact, that's where I saw The Wrath of Khan for the first time. Some other, I think, Voyage Home I saw there. And then I saw Search for Holy Grail there as well. And then we watched The Life of Brian, The Meaning of Life. And I've only ever watched those once. After watching them, I didn't feel like I needed to watch them again. That was not the case with The Holy Grail. I felt like with Holy Grail was one I kept being drawn to. I think because of its humor and its silliness, I think this movie especially brings a little levity to life. You need, at least I should say, I need to be reminded of that sometimes we take ourselves a bit too seriously, right? That was my experience with that movie. And I've seen a few of the sketches that Miles that you alluded to since. I have the Argument Clinic is one that I actually used to show in my classes to talk about argumentation, and there may have been some others. I used Mr. Creosote to talk about gluttony when I did that when I used to teach Dante's Inferno. So some of the other clips of some of the other movies and shows have made their way in. Definitely Holy Grail is the one that I've continued to come back to, that has continued to be kind of a part of my life on a regular basis. What was it like revisiting this movie again? Miles, I know before we started recording, you talked a little bit about this, but revisiting it now, it's 2025. This movie is now 50 years old, right? Miles, how you feeling about this movie 50 years later?
Well, I forgot that it had like 3 different openings, and so the score for the first one was kind of out there. I'm like trying to remember what they were going with it. Then it's like, oh, this is the wrong one. Sorry. And the people that did this got sacked. And then there was another one which was just more gentle music, if I remember correctly. And there's one that was with the strobe. It was strobing back and forth.
Those people were sacked.
So
The next
Yeah. The long opening credits was supposed to be making fun. I don't know if it was Ingmar Bergman, some other movie director who was known for the long opening credits. They were making fun of. So it was a particular homage they were trying to kind of show as a part of that. But
yeah, I figured they were trying.
the subtitles are totally make that.
Yeah, you have to assume that they're making fun of anything and everything they can possibly get their hands on.
Which, I mean, it sets up it sets the tone of the whole movie just perfectly. Of like, we're just whatever it is, we're gonna make fun of it, and the dryness of the humor, just like, oh, they have been sacked, and now just letting you know those people have been sacked as well. For me, I love revisiting this movie because it cracks me up every time, and I just spend probably the next 2 weeks with it like living rent free in my head, and I'm just giggling the whole time.
Or you pull out the quotes in unsuspecting company, right?
Yes.
You know, I think the opening credits just it sets up the tone. Part of what makes this movie so amazing is they're constantly breaking the fourth wall, and the silliness that's all a part of it's just absolutely fantastic.
Even just like another very opening scene of the whole like the conversation about the coconuts and then ignoring the King Arthur as he's trying to like get their attention, and they're like, a swallow? Well, you could carry it. Well, I mean, two swallows if they put it like through the branch and underneath his dorsal feathers, and just.
And I forgot that's going to play an important part of the movie later on.
Well, ironically, the whole dialogue of the people on the castle wall debating the airspeed of an African swallow was actually not part of the original script. The actors were originally supposed to be commenting on the weather and ignoring King Arthur, but the actors, I guess, before they started rolling, were debating this, like you do, like geeks will sometimes do, debate something random, and they decided to keep it in, and they started rolling with this debate going on about whether or not an African swallow could actually do this, or European swallow. And so it actually kind of rolled into that, which is brilliant in of itself. Ironically, Europe would not have had coconuts at that time period,
That is true.
not in the 900s. It wouldn't have been until the 15 or 1600s when they would have had, and they would have began colonization, they would have had access to that.
I mean, is that more of a Caribbean, South American?
That was my understanding, based on the one documentary I was watching today on the Holy Grail. I mean, ironically, the coconuts became real valuable like in the 1600s, and people used to make these chalices out of them and so on, the husks of them, but not in the 900s. Of course, the other thing that busted my bubble when I was watching this documentary is England didn't have castles like that in the 900s either. They were wooden
No.
structures. Castles didn't come in until the Normans came in, and 1,000 years later, or not, I guess, 200 years later, after this
Yeah.
movie set. So
Yeah, well, there's a lot of inaccuracies of it, but part of it was just to make fun of the modern idea of what people had about the Middle Ages.
oh
So,
yeah,
I mean,
oh yeah. There's
like,
so many. There's so many. But it's not the point. Like you go through and you just kind of like you aren't looking at this movie for historical accuracy. You're looking at it to make you laugh at its stupidity.
And what is Monty Python? I mean, what are these guys? I try to. I mean, try to see what kind of message they're trying to send or communicate. And when King Arthur goes to those two peasants and he gets in an argument with them, and like we didn't vote for you, and like you don't vote for a king. It's like they're complaining about being oppressed by this king and saying no, we're what is it? What do they say?
autonomous commune.
Yeah.
Towns Collective.
Yeah.
And
So back in the 70s, there was this new, maybe starting in the 60s, but this commune movement, and
Yeah.
I wonder if that formed that piece of dialogue.
oh, I'm sure it did, along with some wet tot distributing souls.
It's not a way to form a government.
And now I see memes going around of like, having some wet tart distributing swords doesn't sound like such a bad idea. And I'm like, I volunteer to be the wet tart. Here you go, I have a sword. You're now in charge.
Oh gosh.
I think I'd be very good at picking someone to be in charge. I'm just saying.
Oh
Oh, look,
my.
it's me. I chose myself.
Oh gosh.
I just want to see you in the lake, hand the sword off to whoever you've chosen.
Exactly. I could every 4 years I'll just go out in the lake, I'll grab a sword, and I'll pick someone. It's fine.
Sounds good to me.
I think it's just interesting, the idea. I love that whole conversation with the peasants. It's fantastic. Even the The witch hunt is fantastic. I was actually, that was another thing the lady was talking about in the documentary I was watching on this, and they were just saying that witch hunts really didn't exist until the 1700s. In the 900s, they didn't care about witches. If someone thought they were somehow manipulating the cosmos, the priests just kind of said, "Oh, don't be crazy. Do four Hail Marys and be done." They just didn't care. There wasn't this whole burning at the stake or drowning them or anything like that.
You didn't have that. They would burn heretics.
They would. They would burn
So
heretics. Like if you said something that seemed to be counter to the religion, what was accepted religiously, that threw you in way more danger. You were way safer to pretend to be a witch.
you could be a witch and you could have spells so long as you invoked the saints while you're doing your spells. That's fine. So as long as you were invoking the right kind of spirits to help
Yeah.
you were fine. It was totally kosher.
It just sounds more funnier to burn the witch in a British
Well,
accent.
it's a Larry. The whole rationale and the whole logical fallacy that they're running with there is just absolutely fantastic. Just fantastic.
That is, and it kind of just alludes to some of the logical fallacies that they previously engaged in before the scientific method really took off. Because they did have some of that, but it was just the leaps of logic that just make no sense. You're like, why do we ban witches? Because it's made of wood. What does wood do? Float. What also floats? Churches. Very small rock.
What else floats? Ducks.
Yeah. See, we're quoting it. We're quoting it right here.
I lose my largest scales. It's like, what is this randomness? Every scene, I just sit there and
Every
giggle.
scene, even when you're dealing with the plague, right? The plague's not around for another 300-400 years.
Oh, I know.
But
Bring out dead.
yeah, I'm not dead yet.
The woman smashing. Normally, I would not laugh at this, but the fake cat with the meow sound.
It's hilarious, and what they're doing is they're playing again on these. When you get far enough away from the point in history that occurs, we muddle it together. So I might say, "Oh, well, the plague, that seems like the Middle Ages to me," and it might be late Middle Ages, but we're really certainly not in the 900s, right? We really don't have a
Yeah.
conception of what that looks like. And so it
Yeah.
runs all together for us. And so I think in some ways, they're kind of making fun of the fact that we hit all this stuff together.
We really do have a kind of a muddled history of what happened precisely when. Most of when we think of Middle Ages is more like late Middle Ages, as opposed to when Arthur would have been, which is also really fascinating. I did get to see the supposed castle where King Arthur was born.
And where was that?
That would have been down in Cornwall, and I'm going to mispronounce it. It's like Tintagel. Tintagel.
I was going to ask whether it was the French version or the English version of King Arthur.
But unfortunately, it was really windy that day, so I couldn't go out because the wind was so bad. It was too dangerous to go up and look at the ruins because I guess they were afraid I would get swept off the cliff, which I appreciate not dying.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of our favorite moments in this film. Miles, you kind of got to start with the opening credits. But as you rewatched it, I know you said, well, this movie, I'm not really sure I need to see it for another decade or two. What scenes kind of did stand out to you in this rewatch for you?
Well, there's the Black Knight that all his limbs, and the Black Knight is still, taunting him.
Take your legs off.
It's just silly and ridiculous. Knights that say knee. They walk into this forest and it's foggy and spooky. You see these people walking around, and you see this guy come out and say, "We are the knights that say knee, and you will give us a shrubbery or else you'll die." That's always a fun one for me. And then when they come back with the shrubbery, the knights that say knee have it changed the name. And I was trying to watch because I watched it with the closed captions on it, and closed captions actually managed to translate the new name for the knights that formerly said knee. With one when they go to the bridge of death, the seer asks the question, and then the seer's like, "Oh, it's when Arthur, says, is it a European skull or an African skull?" And he said, "I don't know." And then he gets launched off into the pit, just like you should have expected it, but I wasn't expecting it the first time I saw it years ago, and that's always funny. Just how silly and farcical that was, just where they were going with that. But yeah, so those are some of my favorite scenes.
Chrissy, how about you? What are some of your notables?
I mean, they're all so notable. Like the scene with the Sir Robin and like the minstrels at the end.
Yes.
And I like the in-between drawing scenes, like where it's referencing the illuminated text. And what's really funny is a lot of the more, I'm going to say, vulgar things in Monty Python are found in illuminated text. Like there were pictures of like butts with trumpets in medieval texts, because I guess the monks were bored, nothing better to do. They started being vulgar as they drew.
It wasn't just the Disney animators that did it. It was the monks that animated books. They did back then too.
Yes. So, and like just the cartoon peril has disappeared because the animators suffered a heart attack. I mean, it's gold. And of course, the ending, the literal cop out. I mean, just I love a good pun.
Yes, the cop out indeed.
The French taunts. Oh my gosh.
Oh yes.
Did he just make up those taunts as he did them, or like were they written down? Like I just like please tell me
that would be interesting to find
look
out.
It up. Like, did he just ad lib them? Because it's like I will wave. So come back here and I shall taunt you a second time.
I do like some of the scenes that I like when they're charging the castle and the guy blinks and then they're back at the same spot still charging the castle. And that repetition numerous times until they're actually like there. I thought that was classic. And I think right before that, when the kid that's trapped in the castle shoots an arrow out and it hits, I don't know, is it Sir Lancelot's page or whoever?
Yep.
And he's like, message for you, sir. And then he has this whole dialogue like that echoes again a couple times throughout the movie, but where they do like, oh, I'm getting better. I think I'm going to be all right, and then, they just have to, and this echo just continues and they play with that numerous times. And I do like the way that kind of carries itself. I like the Trojan chicken, and especially that scene as they're like describing climbing out, but they're actually not in it. Is always classic.
And then looking into like, wait a second, we missed a step.
Yeah. Which knight was it that went to the castle with the fake grail, the castle of the virgins?
Galahad, Sir Galahad the Pure, because of course.
Of course.
Interestingly enough, Galahad and Lancelot were not original to the medieval Arthurian text. They were later inserted by basically the French. And then because Lancelot kind of got, in a sense, corrupted because of his whole affair with Guinevere, Sir Galahad was supposed to be the pure version of what Lancelot originally was. So he would have had the whole like chastity thing, so the vow of chastity. So that's one of the reasons why they would have picked Sir Galahad to then go and get tempted, which is also really funny because at the end of that scene, Galahad accuses Lancelot of being gay. He then rescues a guy instead of a maiden. And then later in the musical, they actually do make them get together. And the end of the whole musical is them getting married. And it's so like, it also becomes funnier the more you know about original like medieval Arthurian texts, when you have to like read through them. And then like the history of how it like progressed over time through the Middle Ages. as some of the things that were once acceptable earlier on in the Middle Ages became less acceptable later. Like the entire affair with Guinevere was originally not as scandalous, is my understanding. And then later on it became more so, as people like King Arthur and all of his Knight's Tales were the original fan fiction of everything. So Lancelot was definitely like a made up character, not found originally. And then Galahad later on was another basically insert later on. So it's also interesting that those are like kind of the two very most famous knights. They keep popping up.
Yeah, it is interesting to see how that plays out. And of course, Monty Python's just having fun with it, right? They're just running with this and making fun of the entire heroic tale. This idea that they are called by God to go on this divine quest, right? Leads them through this silliness of things that they're trying to accomplish. It's kind of a funny look at it. Yeah, so I guess those are some of my scenes that really, really, really stuck out. Rewatching this again, I'm continually delighted by the silliness of it. The actors obviously playing multiple roles, and they continue to, crop up in different scenarios. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. Did you know that they did not use any stunt doubles for the battle between the Black Knight and Arthur?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they had a lot of fun filming that, as they had to learn like some of the acrobatics of the scene to pull it off.
Yeah.
They didn't use stunt doubles. The main reason for the quote unquote cop out at the end of the movie was because they were running out of money, and so they just thought it'd be funny if they did like a literal like thing that just like completely like ends the whole movie. Cops come arrest Arthur for like murdering a historian in the middle of the
Well,
film.
what's funny about that too, Chrissy, is this was actually the original script before they started filming had Sir Lancelot, King Arthur. Some of the scenes were running. They were searching for the Grail through modern London. Like there was a lot of there was some modernity kind of like weaving its way through, which in this one the most we get is when the historian is killed, and then they obviously use that as a premise to arrest Arthur at the very end. There apparently were a lot more scenes that got cut, and I think it works much better the way they have it now than having a lot more of those scenes in, because it makes it seem kind of random. But
When reenactors act badly.
yeah, it is true. The other thing that I think was funny, that a large percentage of the extras were people from the villages nearby where they were filming. And basically they paid them by feeding them because they didn't have a budget for it. And then there were people that were hiking nearby that they grabbed and drew into the script as well, into the shooting, because they just didn't have a budget for extras.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
That is understandable. I think that would be really funny to be able to tell people. So I was an extra in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I was just hiking around.
And then it was kind of like, whatever. But that's it is kind of interesting. The other thing that I learned as I was kind of getting ready for tonight, was the lead actor, the guy that plays Arthur, was a raging alcoholic.
Oh.
That because of the way it impacted his delivery of lines, they had to rewrite the script for him to really remember some of his lines. And it was actually interesting story. Through the shooting of Monty Python, he decided to quit drinking, and by the end of the shooting, he had weaned himself off of alcohol.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, so that's positive little thing about that.
He lived. I was just curious how long he lived for. He was born in 41, Graham Chapman, and died in 89.
Okay.
Oh, didn't quite make it to 50.
Shooting apparently was miserable.
Yes.
They were in Scotland. They didn't have, the armor was like wool, painted wool. So like the chainmail wasn't real chainmail. It was like wool that they had painted. And this stuff would get wet heavy and cold by the end of the day, and it was just miserable.
And they didn't have a hotel with like actual like hot water, and there apparently there wasn't enough of it, so there was always like a race back to the hotel to see which one of them could actually get cleaned up.
Oh, what a
So
nightmare. What did they shoot this in 4 weeks? Is that what I read?
I think so. They shot it in 4 weeks. For how long it took them to write it. It took them like 15 months to write.
I mean, other thoughts, Miles, Chrissy?
There was one more scene I thought was funny, was the three-headed knight, the giant knight. Just the three of them arguing with each other. I thought that was funny.
That was.
I really liked the part when they were like, and that they were forced to eat Robert's minstrels, and there was much rejoicing. So just the fact that they were forced to eat his minstrels, and they were happy about it.
You know, the reason they used coconuts is because they couldn't afford horses.
Well, because that's what they usually would use when they were like doing like horse hooves, is they usually would use coconuts, like as an enhanced sound effect. So, because sometimes if microphones have difficulty picking up on certain noises, then they go back and they like recreate the noises later using different like props to make them, and they would traditionally use coconuts when the microphone didn't pick up a horse hoof. So that's kind of like where they got that from.
It gave an opportunity to be even more sillier, because when you ever saw the knights walking around, they'd be doing this silly gallop while the one guy was, banging the coconuts. It was, just it gave him an opportunity to be even more sillier.
I mean, everything that they do is just, it has like so many layers to it. And like the more that you know, the funnier it gets. So you can watch it once when you're younger and then watch it again. And because, at least for me, the more layered something is, the funnier I find it. So for me, I'm just over there cackling, laughing hysterically at everything that they're doing. And then I can go back and read more Arthurian legends or something about filmmaking, and then I go back and I see yet another reference. And so the older I get, the funnier it becomes. And that's what I love about rewatching the Monty Python movies, is because they have so many layers to them, which I think that's one of the reasons why geeks like them, is because it's not just, they're silly and just like a one-off thing. It actually has a lot of thought and references put into it that's used for comedic effect.
Some of the stuff that was done was also done as they were trying to avoid breaking character, because they were laughing as they were reading the script as well. The one I think of, we were talking about the witch hunt. Eric Idle bares his teeth and bites down the blade, which is iconic. But he's trying to hold himself from laughing. He's trying to keep from laughing. So he can be seen shaking slightly, trying to keep his laughter under control. Sir Michael Palin can be seen hiding laughter in the same time as well, while earlier John Cleese quickly turns his head to one side just before the shot cuts. They're not quickly enough to hide the fact he's broken character and grinning broadly. And they just...
She's a witch!
yeah.
And we do go better.
So they initially screened this at the Cannes, Cannes Film Festival.
God only knows.
I didn't know they did. And the response was some people left laughing and others were like confused, which is kind of what the response you said your sister had.
She, to this day, doesn't get it.
But one of the notable things is while the movie was screening, the audience laughed at the opening credits. However, the projector stopped and the audience just roared with laughter, thinking it was all part of the movie. But instead, there was a bomb scare, and firemen came in and made everyone in the cinema go outside.
That would be hysterical. You're like sitting there laughing, like, it's a bomb scare. Oops, I have to go out. It is definitely one of those movies where, like, if you get it, you'll find it so funny. If you don't get it, if you do not like absurdist humor, this movie is not for you. If you don't like slapstick or just it's just absurdist. Like if you're not into absurdist,
it is. It's absurd. It's silly. It's nonsense. But in a lot of ways, there is this underlying commentary, right? When you look at it, it's kind of satirical comedy that uses the legendary quest of the Holy Grail as this framework for critique of greed, stupidity, and the inherent absurdity of history, human and civilization, even heroism itself. It's kind of poking fun at these concepts as you're kind of walking through it. So I think that through its silliness, there are things we kind of look at ourselves and kind of laugh at, right?
And even the Arthurian legends over time, like I mentioned earlier, like the whole courtly love between Lancelot and Guinevere was earlier accepted, and then later it wasn't. It was considered very much a fatal flaw of Lancelot's character. And then Galahad got introduced. It's almost like Lancelot 2.0. And so even just the idea of like what makes someone heroic changes over time and based on your culture. And so like it's also making fun of that. This is why I say like earlier, the more you know, the funnier it gets. So, and that's why I like it, because it does poke fun at politics, about the Arthurian legends, at religion, at, science, and like the assumptions that people make about history. And
I think the absurdness that the things that people will go to accomplish things in the name of being a hero or in the name of religion, for better and worse. And I'm all, I'm all for faith, right? But sometimes the lengths that people go to accomplish something, I think it pokes fun at that, and rightly so.
yeah, and just how different people interpret different things, like in aspects of faith, and then it takes them down, these crazy routes. But then you have other people who are looking at them going, that's not how that works. I think it does call in some ways of like, okay, are you going to re-examine what you think about those themes, which is what humor and comedy is meant to do.
And I've always been of the adage when I watch stuff like this is, if you can't look at yourself and see some of the absurdness and even the way we kind of live our life and the assumptions with which we live it, then I think that we're missing the point a little bit, right? I think we have to be able to make some fun of ourselves through the process. Well, I have our bad reviews if we want to move that direction.
How could there be bad reviews of this movie? It's a gem.
Oh, there are some bad reviews. So, and
tell
actually
me
quite
all.
a few, but 1 stars. So I'm going to need, Dave's not here to be salty, so we're going to need Miles, you and Chrissy to bring the salt, or maybe Miles, you'll agree with the reviews. We'll see.
I'll try to have some faux outrage.
Yeah. 1 out of 10 bad reviews. And the title is Really People? Best Comedy Ever? This is the first time I write a review. I couldn't help it. I really can't understand how so many people find this movie to be great. It's almost unwatchable. I managed to watch half of it. It's one of the worst movies I've watched in my entire life.
Well, it's not for everybody.
I mean, like I said earlier, if you don't like absurdist humor, you will not like Monty Python.
And that's the thing, is you got to buy in. It's there is, Chrissy said it, it's absurdity humor. So it's, if you can't not take it too seriously, yeah, it's probably not for you.
That's the entire point. Don't take it seriously.
What the heck did I just see?
Well, now that is a legitimate statement to make after seeing it.
It is.
Now, what happens after you go from there? That's what that's.
It says this person writes, I think the movie put me through shock of how cheesy, corny, stupid, unfunny, and how completely pointless it was. What is up with these stupid comedies? I could barely watch whole movie, but still it was hard for me to watch considering how I have a sixth sense of humor. This film just really was not that funny to me, though seriously. Everybody says that this movie is hilarious and it's entertaining. Well, to be honest, it's neither. This person has a bad grammar, just fine. This movie, to my opinion, is one of my top 10 worst films of all time. This film, of course, is number 4 on the list because it managed to make me laugh once and only once. People say this movie is good, so I will recommend this film to little kids. Other than that, I can just not see why this is so funny. I rate this film a 1 out of 10 purely because it doesn't deserve an 8 because I wasted my money on this film.
I don't think we should be recommending this movie to children, at least not unless we're going to remove that whole Grail thing with Zoo to the Maidens.
Yes, there was definitely. I remember watching this when Kiefer was maybe 10, and there were parts that I'm like, some sensibilities maybe I was a little bit uncomfortable with. All right, so this next one, I'll read two more. 200% horrible.
Too
This
bad it's
one was considered the best. My pals told me many times of how great it was. I watched it very carefully. I almost cringed and simply made myself watch it till the end. This is awful. I hated every single second of the third rate horror of a tasteless movie ever. Nobody's funny in this movie. Inez, Gilliam, Idols, Cleese, they're all horrible. And this is a fine example of a really poor script, terrible play, main effort of being funny, but just being utterly silly. Stupid, senseless, clueless, less of all, just less. I hate it with all my guts. Right, right were those who said this movie did not stand the test of time. Well, it never stood at all. It dragged and crawled most miserably. My advice is this: never waste 90 minutes of your time in this delirium, this stew of unfunny skits and blunt jokes. There is nothing sacred for this bang of unfunny comedies. It's clear here. It's bad and worse every minute. Simply bad.
Well, I mean, their mistake was trying to take it seriously in the first place. Like, it's silly. That's the point.
Exactly.
I wonder if this person saw any of the Monty Python skits. Maybe if you don't know what you're getting into,
And
you
of
can't
course,
buy into it. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember, in my teenage adult brain in the mid 80s, how I felt about this the first time I saw it. And I can't, but somewhere in there, it made me go back and rewatch it multiple times.
Hmm.
And, when you look at this movie, this became, I don't know if any, have any of you read the novelization Ready Player One?
yes.
No.
I mean, this becomes a central part of one of the quests, right, Chrissy?
Yes.
And so I mean, this continues to like crop itself up in science fiction and other places. And so for me, just from that end, it's funny. And I don't know when I watched it again, other than the intrusion into real life when the Brits come at the end and arrest the people, it doesn't really not stand the test of time because it's not a period piece like that. You know what I mean?
If anything, I think because it's now 50 years old and it was so like just silly, like the age almost makes it funnier now than when it first came out because like just the way that it aged, I feel. And like I said earlier, I grew up with this kind of humor, which is why I don't quite understand why my sister didn't get it. But like this is the kind of humor that my dad had, my mom had, like their friends had. For me, being like having silly and being absurd was just kind of like normal in my house. I don't quite understand people who are like, it's too silly. I'm like, that's the point. The point is being silly. I don't complain about a horror film when it's scary. Or like
Right.
if I go to like a gore slasher film, I'm like, it was too gory. Then
There was
why
too
did
much
you
slashing. Yeah, and to be fair, Monty Python, the Holy Grail on IMDb has an 8.5 rating out of 10, so extremely high, right? It shows the love that it has garnered over the years. And so some of these people, are coming to the movie 40, 35 years after it came out and are just struggling with this sort of humor, maybe. I'll read one more. This is the last one. There's a lot more 1 out of 10s, but I'll read this one. It says, the title of this one is Monty Python's Not a Movie. It's a mismatch of unfriendly, ridiculous pseudo comedy that seems as though it's constructed by a 3-month-old baby. That is the title of it. I was eager to see this film after having such a good reputation, but it's a film with no story, constant, unfunny stupidity, and general crappiness. People say it's a typical British humor. Well, in that case, I don't like British humor. I'm sure you'll find it funny. It's a hilarious film, but I'm rating this as a movie like I would for any other, and therefore it deserves a 1 out of 10, nothing higher. An 8.5 rating should be on a film, which is actually a good movie, not a good sketch show that, for the record, didn't make me laugh. It makes me feel sick that this trash has a higher rating than Full Metal Jacket, Platoon, and Reservoir Dogs. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Mine's just the right one. Monty Python's not an excuse, and silly comedy is simply a failure. It sends jokes at you every second, yet it fails to deliver.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
entitled.
you are entitled to your opinion. I would necessarily say that yours is the only correct one, but yeah, and I'm like, it's sketch comedy. That's what Monty Python is.
Yeah.
Like, have you not seen Monty Python's Flying Circus? Clearly not. So again, if you are not absurdist, if you don't like British humor, if you don't like sketch comedy, not for you. No, I don't watch. Although they're listed. Why would you compare this film to Full Metal Jacket? That makes no sense whatsoever. Why are you comparing apples to oranges? Like, I would not compare. That'd be like comparing this movie to like Dune or like Schindler's List. Like, what? Not even in the same genre, not anywhere near. Compare for what it's supposed to be. But anyways, I'm just saying, if you're gonna review a film, you should compare it to what it's supposed to be, not what it isn't.
I know. To be
If I go to an
fair,
Italian restaurant, I'm not gonna complain I don't get Chinese food.
so to be fair, there were 35 one-star reviews out of 900
So most people
are liking it.
liking it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, most people do like it, and they call it it's comedic brilliance, it's generational appeal, it's unpredictable, it's ironic scene, it's iconic performance, so they like it. I don't know, it's good. Yeah, I still find humor in it. I think it's well worth it in my opinion. But
I would agree. I think it's well worth it, and I visit it again and again. I visit the other Monty Python skits and movies again and again because I find them all hysterical.
well, let's go through and give it a ranking. I guess we're scoring these out of 5 here, and how we would rank them. We aren't ranking them out of the 10. I guess that they ranked them on IMDb. But Chrissy, we'll let you go ahead. How would you rate this movie out of 5?
I would give it 5 of 5 stars. It is definitely one of my all-time favorite films, and every time I watch it, I find something new to enjoy about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Miles, how about you?
I give it a solid 4.
Or yeah, I know for you, that when you watched this the first time, did you find it funny?
I did laugh in spots, but I guess maybe I can only take the humor in smaller doses until I have to say, you know what, I'm done here. I did find it funny, but after a while, I'm just like, okay, I feel like I'm getting stupider now, so I need to watch something else. I like this film, but just it's to me, it's not something. I mean, I know you said you probably watch it maybe at least once a year. I could probably watch it once every 10 years and be fine.
Yeah. I don't know that I watch it once a year, but I certainly, it's every few years I'm watching it, or it comes up, or it'll somehow make it in that that I'll end up watching it again. And I enjoy it every time. I agree, Chrissy. I think I would also give this a 5 out of 5. Not because it's technically the best one or it's the most solid storyline, but because I just thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy the humor, I enjoy the fun, I enjoy the lines. It's such a quotable film. I don't know. I really did enjoy this. So one other fact that I ran across while studying for this film, and then we'll wrap it up here, is this was one of Elvis's favorite movies.
Hmm.
And he watched it. He had a tape that he had gotten it on in a late, I don't forget when he died, but he had a tape that he had that in Graceland they found that was pretty worn. Like he had watched it many times, and he would throw in quotes among his friends that knew him.
So we're in good company for liking this movie.
If the king likes it, I don't know how you can be like wrong, right?
Exactly.
This movie came out in 75. He died in 77. So
So
He
he
must
would
have watched a lot in those 2 years.
he must have. But I saw that come through, and I obviously didn't research it or independently verify it, but there was just 20 odd facts about Monty Python's Holy Grail, and I thought that was just interesting. So, all right. Well, I believe that's about it. And for those of you that are listening, we would love to hear what you think about Monty Python's Search for the Holy Grail. What are your thoughts about it? Do you like it? Or do you agree with some of these one stars that it's just not the film for you? We would love to hear from you. You can drop it in our Facebook page or email us at the SciFi Diner Podcast at gmail.com. And I think that's about it. So, Miles, why don't you take us out of the show?
all right. Till next time, good night and good luck.
We'll see ya,
Leave your tips on the table.
and go boldly.